All right, welcome to Stampscaping 101. This is another test on the MIRRI Lava holographic cardstock. Okay. Keep in mind this is not the printable vinyl, so this is kind of an unconventional type of surface to apply any type of media onto. So again, we are sticking with the type of media or the line of pigmenting specifically that will dry on this type of surface here. This is an example that I just did yesterday, and I spray sealed it with a Krylon triple thick acrylic coating to get everything to adhere to the surface. But look at how this looks here. I realize that this is a matte surface right here, okay? So I think that's might be why it really took the media better than I thought. It wasn't so kind of sealed off as glossy coated cardstocks are, okay? Now keep in mind, that's not the printable vinyl. That's a completely different type of surface. But spray sealing it, it really became, kind of more intense in terms of the finish on it. So I don't know, you might like, more of the matte type of softer look. But the triple thick is, kind of an extreme version. You could spray seal with a workable fixative, which will retain that matte surface if you want. But if you want to go anywhere in between this and more of this glossy finish, then just apply your acrylic sealants accordingly, okay? All right, now you can see this down here where I have my foreground trees. You really can't see them too much, so maybe I should have put a little bit of a blanket of clouds behind here. You don't have to put it everywhere, okay? Like you can see these trees go up beyond this cloud line, but it's, you can tell that it goes up there where these ones down here, you really can't tell too much. So maybe just a little bit of a base coat of some white would help with that. Okay, so on this one right here, I said I would go with that kind of, lying on your back and looking up at the stars type of effect on this one. I think it's a really good composition to go with these kind of boulder trees, the lakeside cove type of image on this surface, just because it is such a loud surface, okay? So we need bold imagery to stand up against it. Now, going with something like this, I think would show up on here. And there's another choice too, I'll try it on my next piece, of stamping our imagery in white. The one problem with the white, though, is that it is not quite opaque, okay? You might be able to do something with a white embossing, to make it look really solid, but I just don't think that stamping something with this directly on here, I don't, I don't know how much it's going to stand out. We might be able to do it as a secondary layer, where you stamp something down here. You get a white layer, stamp something in black, and then you stamp something on white on top of the black where you're not really stamping it directly on that. Maybe that would work, and maybe we'll try something like that in here. Okay, so this is going to be a circle of clouds on the perimeter right here. And again, it's really more so that, for the purpose of being able to see our imagery stamped in a dark value against it. Specifically, I'll use black, but I guess you can use multiple tones. I mean, this is a blue colored scheme, or blue foil, so if you had like a blue brilliance or like a blue, metallic, I don't know if they even have that, they might. That might be interesting in conjunction with black, so you can kind of stay within the theme of the color scheme of your, your foundation, platform. All right, so I'm just varying this. I don't want it to be just a completely round thing around here. I want this to be like billowing clouds. Okay, you can, if you want to, you can mask off some area too. You can, rip a like a little cloud template like this. And matter of fact, I might do that just for some variation here. Okay, something like this. And then you go down here a little bit more and get a nice thick coating right next to your, you know, whatever, cloud stencil, paper towel cloud stencil, but it is still a stencil, okay, like that. And then you can see that little variation in there, okay? I'm going to lay down a pretty decent slathering of it because it does look a lot lighter, or darker, I should say. It kind of becomes a little bit more transparent as it dries, so it's not going to be that light. As a matter of fact, you could see this in the background was kind of that light, but as it dries, it just sets up and it becomes a little bit more, it moves towards transparency as opposed to opacity, okay? Or even the retention of whatever opacity exists as it is wet, or in its wet incarnation, okay? So this is going to be the opening in the sky up here. You could just do clouds down here and just a row of trees down here, but I don't know, sometimes this is a little bit more interesting of a compositional element when you're kind of looking up at the sky. I see these, so you know, sometimes it's best to just kind of make your own. There are some of these templates I've seen where they have like an existing bunch of trees, you know, and it's one stamp. But I'm noticing you know, whatever people are doing the art, they haven't taken any kind of like art classes or something like that because they're always getting the angles wrong. They haven't considered a vanishing point at all. So you get the trees are kind of skewed, and I just saw one recently where they did it again. They didn't have a singular vanishing point, so the perspective is off on these images. Okay, so it's just kind of better to just use your own trees, and I'll show you how to do it, or I'll show maybe whoever's doing these designs for some of these other companies. To what they need to do on these pieces, it's like basically it's drawing like 101 in high school. But okay, so what I'm talking about here is just find a vanishing point. So I'm just going to put a little dot right there. Okay, do you see a little dot right there? That's what I'm going to be pointing all of my trees at. Okay, and they have to, I mean, if you're off by a little quarter inch or something like that, it's not going to be better. But sometimes they're like this, where they have a vanishing point up here, and then the next tree is like this way. So it's going up here, here. The vanishing point's like everywhere. And so it throws off perspective. I don't know. I guess it could be like that if there's like you can say like some storm came through and all the trees were kind of knocked out of whack. There's a bunch of felled trees or something like that. But it's usually not something that's not kind of the subject matter that you would really want to depict, usually in a scene or on a card, kind of disharmony. So just keep that in mind. Okay, I'll show you how to implement that, okay? So see this sort of point right here? Now there's another tree right here, and these ones aren't going into perspective, but we're going to go with the dominant one, okay? So you just put your finger right there if you need to, and then point this, and this goes right directly at that, okay? Now, we'll also change kind of the depth of this piece. This is another thing that they kind of, and it looks really kind of without harmony. What you do is you have this going in at a certain depth, and then the other ones you kind of vary a little bit more, okay? So it just depends on where they are, okay? So right over here, if I go the exact same, depth into the card as this previous one, I mean, it'll be okay, but it's a little bit better with variation. Okay, so this one I went this far, the previous one I went this far, so it's a little It's about a 1/4 inch or so, or maybe a 1/2 inch. All right, so see like that? Now, the next one, see, I don't want to go in like this far. There's our vanishing point, so you don't go beyond that. So let's take this and just use maybe 1 inch of this pine right here, okay? I mean, it depends on what tree you're working with. Some things aren't pine trees, like if it's a, you know, a palm tree or something like that, where you have the fronds that are going out, you know, then you would have to just kind of imagine where the stalks are as far as your kind of angles go. So see this right here? It's going like that, and there's that little dot right there. So everything's like pointing. Now see that? Everything's going right to that dot still. I can now see this one right here. Let's put a really short one right next to this other one, and you can go for a little overlap like that. See that? So it's not so much the same exact tree everywhere, okay? And that's how you get rid of this kind of this monotony that's happening. And don't be afraid, go up into this open space as well, like about like so. And now, at some point in time, I should really splatter paint that opening with some stars, or maybe I'll just draw them in this time. I won't splatter paint using the Dr. Martens, okay? And that way I can get a very controlled application. Okay, see that one little tree, and we'll go here. I'm just using like a 1/2 inch right there. See that right now? Now there is a little bit of monotony going on in here. Don't get me wrong. You know, I've just been using one tree. I could switch it up with, you know, another pine as well. In fact, maybe I'll do that. Now the thing that I've been wondering about is, you know, if you use like a white one or a silver one in there, with how would that look? It might look kind of cool. So out in nature, there's, you know, different types of pines together. You know, whatever, sequoias and, you know, I don't know, ponderosa pines, stuff like that. It's different ones. So don't be afraid of, you know, kind of varying the application of imagery within your piece. Okay, now just to make things quite a bit different, but to harmonize with it, a dead tree. I didn't realize how much I needed this leafless pine here until I started using it. It was like, oh my gosh, that looks like so much better of a you know, kind of skyline here, I guess you can say, tree line. But just having these other types of versions of your pine trees, I don't know, to me it just looks so much more real like that, you know? You see that everywhere in nature. Let's see, let's go with a small one here. That was the large one. I don't want to go too much. Sometimes I've used a little bit too many of the leafless ones. Let's go with the small one. Again, it's for kind of a textural contrast. Anytime you have this kind of monotony running around in here, you want to break up the monotony a little bit, or a lot. So you don't, so the viewer doesn't kind of get bored of this type of thing, because every time you do something like this, you're kind of putting your viewer on a little bit of a kind of a visual path, okay, and they're going around like that. And if it's like the same, you know, it'll lose their attention faster than if there's you know, some variation in there. And variation can equate to visual richness as opposed to visual monotony, okay? All right. So here we got this. There's our sky up there. And then we'll take our pens like this, and let's add in a few stars. I need to be careful in here because all of this is still wet, so I don't want to put my hand into it, which I'm prone to do quite often. Let's do something like, let's have this. I don't know which way's top and bottom, you know. I think this way's the bottom right here. I think it's heavier, weighted heavier with the trees like this down here. I mean, but in theory, you know, it could be any which way. Yeah, I think this looks like top and bottom. So I'm going to put this Milky Way coming down this way. Kind of just in general. I'll have a few stars like kind of going along in this general path right here. That was a light blue right there. See that little path of them? And then what you do is you just kind of create some additional stars. And again, I'm just doing this in, you know, a few blue variations here. You make a little bit of a larger star if you want to, just kind of scribble it on there. And here's white, you know, there's something quite a bit brighter. Might be kind of interesting to add you know, a couple crystals in here. Now, see, you kind of have the main kind of Milky Way going down right in here. Okay, and but then you put your little stragglers out, kind of on the you know, the perimeter, like that. All right, see that little line of stars down like that, and that kind of anchors down that middle area in there. As far as your just kind of stabilizing area within that space. All right, and that is the card, which is a good thing because it sounds like the gardeners are next door, and we're gonna have a lot of weed whacking and lawn mowing and what is that, air blower, leaf blower type of sounds coming in. So. A quick card right here. Very quick action. I let this sit overnight. The inks are all dry, and then I spray seal it the next day. But it'll probably take on more of that super rich surface right here. You can kind of, when I go like that, you can kind of see the spray sealant surface on there. But I don't know. It depends. I think I might want it a little bit deeper like that. You know, it's the spray sealing for me with the gloss spray kind of helps it a little bit. Okay, so anyways, second test with this one. Hope you liked it. Thanks so much for watching. MIRRI Wave, MIRRI Lava. Really fun stuff.